management. So I'm not going to really dive into the basics or the fundamentals of cloud management. So just to kind of set a primer, Prisma Access Cloud Management is a management portal which is offered as a SaaS service to our customers to manage Prisma Access security service. Essentially, customers, Palo Alto Networks customers who have Prisma Access, they have two different ways of managing the Prisma Access service. One is using Panorama. The other one is using the Prisma Access Cloud Management. Panorama is mostly a traditional way, which is not offered as a SaaS service. The Prisma Access Cloud Management is actually more of a newer solution or an application which is being offered as a SaaS service for the customers to manage Prisma Access. So when you, if you look at the UI, I've gone through this before. Obviously, we have the manage tile on the left side where most of the configurations are done, and obviously there is like insights where you can look at different types of like how your Prisma Access infrastructure is performing, different alerts and stuff. And then also there is the activity on the left, which actually has dashboards with respect to getting more visualization into the data, like what kind of threats you're hitting, like what kind of URLs the users are going through and stuff. And then also people who are familiar with the firewall world, you want to look at different sort of security logs, traffic logs, all these things that are available under the logs in activity. So those are the high level kind of building blocks for Prisma Access Cloud Management. Additionally to that, there are like other solutions which are being managed here. There is ADEM here, and there is Okio. People who are familiar with Okio. So there is Okio, mostly mostly today, like the additional services we're not going to talk about it because those are just actually bolt on. Those are the different solutions which are bolt on to Prisma Access Cloud Management. Today we'll talk about the managed section itself, where most of the configurations, security configurations, or infrastructure configurations are performed on the Prisma Access Cloud Management. So here, what I'm going to talk about mostly the new features which we introduced of late. So just quickly for anybody who is not familiar with Prisma Access Cloud Management, this is the overview page where you kind of actually get a look for you look and then you kind of actually get a summary of how your configuration status are. If you want to actually do onboarding of new features and stuff, so we have onboarding walkthroughs, so you can actually use them to onboard new features in a faster way. This is actually as opposed to just going and reading the admin guides. Of course, admin guides are necessary, like if you want to actually do some complicated configurations, or if you want to actually do some detailed or granular set of controls and stuff. But if you want to just quickly onboard a feature and then try it out, so here is the onboarding walkthroughs. And then also we are big into security posture improvements and stuff. So there is actually Optimize, which talks about how your rules can be optimized, the security policies which are defined based on the traffic which is hitting the security policies. Based on that, like how the rules can be further or optimized in order to actually prevent any kind of security loopholes and stuff. And then we have the best practices checks as well. So depending on the configurations which are done, how is the configs complying to the best practices checks? So we do have a summary for that. And like if you want to take a look at licenses, like all the licenses that's associated with the tenant, so there is a licensing page available as well. So quickly jumping into what are all the new features that came out of late. So one of the important things that I want to actually touch upon is the DLP and then SaaS security. The idea here is that customers who buy Prisma Access, they in order to protect the data and their users, they actually have SaaS security, and then they usually buy SaaS security and then DLP services as well. So there were separate actually applications for managing DLP and then SaaS security. So this was kind of giving the admins a broken experience where they had to actually go between multiple portals, like when they had to configure Prisma Access infrastructure, security policies, and DLP, and then SaaS security policies, and then other configurations and stuff. So what we did was we bought the SaaS security management and then the DLP data loss prevention security management into the Prisma Access Cloud Management itself. So now for an admin, he can actually go configure security policies like in Prisma Access. He could actually go and then create he could actually go configure Prisma Access infrastructure related configurations as well. And then he could actually essentially come here and then look at SaaS security and then data loss prevention security management as well. So the idea is unifying and then bringing the Prisma Access infrastructure and security config along with DLP and then SaaS security configuration management into a single portal. So this is not just bringing the config in. What we have done is we have done some advancements with respect to how we do this. So there is a concept called micro frontend. So what happens is with micro frontend, these applications like SaaS security and DLP, they become as containers where the DLP team and SaaS security team, independent of the cloud management engineering, they can actually go build the features and then bring it in. There will be like minimum validations required as opposed to like end-to-end validations and stuff in order to actually get all these together. So that means that there is faster feature velocity in terms of getting the features out, and then independently cloud management and then the DLP and SaaS security can work in bringing the features into a single management portal. So that's one of the biggest advantages with respect to what we have done with the unified management portal itself. It's not like I said, it's not just about bringing the configs together, but it's about how we have done it on the infrastructure side of the house as well, where the SaaS security teams can independently build features. Essentially, when we talk about DLP, so most of the admins would actually go define DLP profiles. So the DLP profile definitions can be done here, and then when you go to the profiles that you're going to define, those DLP profiles can be brought into the profiles here, and then these profiles can be added to the security policy. So it's like a seamless experience where the DLP profile creation is right here under the security services, and to bring it into a profile group is right here, and then adding it to the security policy is right here. So the admin doesn't have to jump back and forth to different applications or completely different master pages and stuff. The same with the SaaS security here. The SaaS security essentially, the dashboard kind of gives like how the applications are performing. And then also, like if the admin wants to tag saying that depending on new applications which are discovered, what is like if it's a sanctioned, unsanctioned, or a tolerated applications, you can actually do that. And then there is actually a concept of policy recommendation as well. The idea with policy recommendation is SaaS admins, when they actually look at when they see that users are accessing newer SaaS applications, and they would want to actually recommend to the security admin saying that how these applications should be treated in line and Prisma Access. So the idea with policy recommendation is if a SaaS admin has to actually go recommend policy before it had to be out of band, in the sense there would be some ticketing tool outside where the SaaS admin would open a ticket, and then the security admin would take a look at the ticket and then define policies. So we have actually brought that process into the cloud management itself, where the SaaS security admin can actually go say that, hey, I mean, I have a certain application. I have certain applications where I want to actually go deny some sensitive uploads. So here are the applications for Box, Gmail, and stuff. I want to actually deny uploads to these applications for this user group. And also, he can define saying that for the uploads, what kind of DLP profile that I want to actually that I want the web security admin to apply. So he makes a policy recommendation here for how those applications should be treated. And when the security admin goes, he gets those policy recommendations which are defined by the SaaS security admin here. So all he does is he looks at, hey, what are all the policy recommendations which came in, right? So he can actually click on actions, and he can actually look at what was recommended in terms of the policy which came from SaaS security admin, and then you can import those into the existing policy recommendation. So once he actually imports those into the existing web security policies, so now rather than an out of band way where a ticket needs to be open, the web security admin, the SaaS admin needs to actually define like different types of information and stuff. And there is actually the security admin and SaaS security admin, they need to agree on a format, like what kind of informations come from SaaS security admin. So and there are possibilities of like defining there are possibilities of like errors which are generated when you do it out of band, right? So with in-band doing within the tool is, right, the SaaS security admin defines the policies, and those policies are essentially translated to the web security admin. We can look at the web security admin can look at the policy, and then essentially the web security admin can go add additional information, additional configuration. For example, the SaaS security admin doesn't know about, hey, what kind of threat inspection policies that need to be added. That's only the security admin knows, who manages the security policies every day. So the security admin can add the threat inspection profiles or policy options and stuff for the policy, and then he could essentially create a new security rule based on what was received from the SaaS security admin. So this is one of the new features that we introduced, like where it helps the SaaS security admin and then the web security admin to kind of actually stay in touch with respect to what they are seeing, and then what they want to, like what they are seeing with respect to the SaaS applications which the users are accessing in an enterprise, and then how those policies, how the Prisma Access need to actually secure those applications and then users in line based on the SaaS security admin recommendations. So that is actually one of the things that we actually introduced recently in terms of policy recommendation. There is a question on how do we activate the web security tab. So today that's controlled by a feature flag. You can open a ticket to enable the feature flag, and then we can enable the feature flag. And then once the feature flag is enabled, like if you go to the overview page, you will see this web security section, and then all you need to do is just say enable, and then it will enable the web security section. So it's a feature flag control, given that there's actually a new way of defining policies that we came out. We are actually doing it on a case-by-case basis, so that depending on the understanding of the customer and stuff. So this was the policy recommendation is one of the new things that we came out with, and we are constantly improving our web security policy. So one of the things that we did with our web security policy is obviously with web security policy, we define the web security policies in a different way. So just to give you a little bit of a primer, the idea with web security policy is the context is always the user, right? So you give a username or a user group, and you define saying that, hey, what the user is allowed to access. For example, what web application is allowed to access, what web application is blocked for the user group, what URL categories are blocked, what URL categories are allowed, right? This is different from the regular security policy where it's only allow or deny, right? So we do the transform to the regular security policies in the backend. So what we did is once the web security rule is defined, how does it get translated to the rules in the backend? So we have a detailed usage here where once the web security rule is defined, and then you get to see the once you click on the detailed usage, you get to see how it gets transformed to the firewall security policies, right? This greatly helps in understanding how web security works, and then also understanding in like when you write a web security rule, how they are transformed to the regular security policies for when they are pushed to the Prisma Access nodes and stuff. And what we've done with web security is the other point is we have given an option to disable the global catch-all policy. This is for the reason is like when web security is enabled, the web security policies are on the top. They match port 80, port 443, and all the web traffic, right? And the traffic that doesn't match port 80, port 443, or the web traffic, it actually flows down, right? So to match all the port 80, port 443, and web traffic, we have the global catch-all policy here, right? So if customers are migrating their internet policies from the regular security policies to the web security framework, so they have an option to disable the global catch-all policy. That way they can slowly migrate policies from the regular security framework to the web security framework. So in order to increase adoption, and then in order to actually give more flexibility to the customers for using the web security policy, we have actually brought in all these additional flexibility with web security policy. And also, recently we introduced the geo IP-based options as well. So where you could actually go define from what country, for example, if you want to actually match on a security policy, you have an option to do that as well. So that was about web security policy. The policy recommendation was, in fact, piece was the biggest one that we introduced of late. There is another feature which is actually of importance, that is remote browser isolation. How easily you can configure remote browser isolation, in fact, to redirect a particular traffic to a remote browser solution. So if you go to URL access management here, so you have a bunch of URL profiles that you can define. So what you can do is, in terms of the easiest way that the workflow that we have defined is, you can go to the URL access management profile that you have, and then you can click on, hey, if you want to actually isolate with For example, Menlo Security is the RPI vendor that we have configured here. So if you want to actually forward a particular URL category to the RPI, remote browser isolation application, you can just click on isolate with Menlo Security or isolate with whatever vendor, RPI vendor, and just save the config. So that should be good enough to actually get the redirection going. So this is actually one of the links. This is actually one of the things that we came out recently, where we simplified it to a greater extent in terms of how the remote browser isolation forwarding workflow simplification happens. So it's just actually a pretty small. It's just only two-step process where you go define the RBI vendors, right, in the configuration. That you would say that, hey, in the URL access management profile, you would say that which are all the URL categories that you want to actually go isolate with particular RBI application that you have. Apart from that, there are some small additions that we did, of course. People who are familiar with explicit proxy, like explicit proxy is another way of forwarding traffic to Prisma Access. So we do have a smart pack file editor here, so where you can actually go edit the pack file, and then we have an inline validation as well, which says that, hey, whether the formatting of your pack file is off or off, like you need to go fix it. So we have that some validations with respect to like the proxy URLs. Is it entered properly or not? So we do a validation here as well. The idea here is the admin doesn't have to actually download and then edit the pack file offline. They can do it within the tool itself. And today we have just one pack file. In the future, we are looking at introducing pack file validations for multiple files as well. So that's one of the new features which actually got added to the Prisma Access Cloud Management. So apart from that, do these have new features? There is a question: do all these new features require Prisma Access 3.0 and above? Yes. So it's I think some of them may need the 3.0 innovation. The 3.0 innovation, for example, the SaaS policy recommendation, right? The SaaS policy recommendation, we do need 10.1 Thanos 10.1 data plane for that. So it's all there in the Prisma Access documentation. So if you look at the Prisma Access documentation, it will say that in order to use a particular feature or so, you need like preferred or innovation releases to make that happen. Country-based block in the web security option. I just wanted to know the way it works. So this feature is for blocking access to GP portal from specific country. It's not the GP portal, it's the explicit. It's actually users coming from a particular country and then accessing the proxy to go out to the internet. So in order to actually block that, so you would use that the geo lookup. So it's actually, if you look at the web security, right, it's actually on the source side. It's not on the destination, right? So essentially, if you look at it, this is actually the source, right? This is the source of where you have the regions. That means that the users who are coming from that location to Prisma Access proxy and then going out to the internet, right? So you're going to block them, right? So that was all the features that I had, essentially, like what we introduced on the Prisma Access. So we have the 3.1 and then we have the 3.2 features coming out. So obviously those are all the Prisma Access features. And some of the new features that I talked about, those are some of the innovations that we brought in, like within the cloud management, Prisma Access Cloud Management itself, to simplify process operations and stuff. Right.